Please welcome to the stage, Maura.
Good afternoon. I'm Maura Burke. I'm a research scientist at Facebook, and I work on understanding well-being. I've been at Facebook for the past 7 years as part of a team called Core Data Science. And today, we'll be talking about social media and well-being, particularly research-driven best practices. So given that you've chosen to come to a session on well-being, I'm assuming you're a little like me. You care about building technology that supports people's well-being, that fosters meaningful interactions between people who care about each other. And also, given that you've come to F8, I'm assuming you're as big a nerd as I am. So let me give you my credentials. I have a PhD in human-computer interaction, and I've worked as a researcher and data scientist on the intersection of technology and well-being for about a decade. Today, I'll share what well-being is and why it matters to Facebook. Then I'll talk about some best practices to support well-being, as well as the data behind those best practices. And finally, I'll share a few changes that we've made as a result of this research. I'm hoping to inspire you to think about how you can translate these best practices into your own work. So what is well-being? Psychological well-being is how people feel about their lives, and it's made of several components. There's subjective well-being. These are your positive and negative feelings, as well as overall satisfaction with your life. So it's not just feeling happy all the time. If that were the case, you could just watch kitten videos all day. Instead, it's about experiencing a wide range of emotions. And when you step back to reflect on it, you're satisfied with the direction that your life is going. There's also having meaning and purpose in life. So it's not just having pleasure in the moment, but rather having something in the long term that motivates you. There's supportive and enriching relationships. This is perhaps our key opportunity as people who work in social technology, to help people support each other. Next is mastery, feeling a sense of achievement and accomplishment, as well as control, having autonomy over yourself and the decisions you make. And that means the big decisions in life, but also control over how you choose to use technology. So these are the main components of well-being. But you might also ask, what about objective indicators like education and income? These are important as well. But there's substantial research that shows that how you feel about your life, given an objective context, is what's really important. So your psychological well-being, your feelings about your life, is linked to numerous health outcomes, including how long you live. Well-being matters to Facebook. For us, it's about moving the conversation forward. From what we understand today about well-being, we believe that we can set an example for how other companies can support it as well. That's why I'm here today at F8 talking about it. We also want to advance and diversify research on well-being. Studying well-being is hard. It's really difficult to determine cause and effect. So, did someone turn to social media because they were lonely? Or did social media cause them to be lonely? Most studies can't tell these apart. So the research community needs more studies that observe well-being over longer periods of time, more research internationally, and more research of diverse demographics. There's a lot of work to do, and we can't do it in isolation. So we'll continue to work with experts in the field, and we hope to collaborate with other partners, including other companies as well. So let's talk about some of the best practices that we've learned. And then after, I'll show the data behind those best practices. The first best practice to support well-being is to encourage interaction, not consumption. Passive consumption, simply scrolling through feed, looking at photo after photo, watching story after story, is not associated with improvements in well-being. And in fact, some studies suggest that passive consumption is detrimental to well-being because it elicits social comparison, or it simply displaces time that could be spent in more meaningful ways. So, instead of promoting time on app, promote interactions between people. The next best practice is to encourage one-on-one communication. Now, this doesn't mean get people to produce a lot of content on your app. It's not about content production, and it's not about broadcasting to your whole audience. Instead, it's about finding opportunities for one-on-one communication between friends. Sending a message to someone, writing on their timeline, commenting on a friend's post. These are all signals that you care about that friend, and we see subsequent boosts in well-being as a result, both for the sender and the receiver. And the impact is greater when the interaction is effortful, when it took some thought and some time. Usually, as designers, we look for ways to reduce friction on our platforms, to make things easy. However, when a friend takes more effort, it's a signal that that relationship is worth the effort. So to promote well-being, it's not about the like button. Likes are great, and they're useful in a lot of other ways. But in this case, if you're trying to promote well-being, encourage more effortful interactions like commenting, writing on a friend's timeline, or spending time together in person. And the effect is greatest when it's with a close friend, rather than an acquaintance or someone that you just met. So these are the best practices for supporting well-being: interaction, one-on-one communication, effort, and close friends. Now let me show you the data, how we came to know that these were best practices. In one study, we surveyed thousands of people around the world, and we asked them standard questions from the academic literature to measure these 7 aspects of well-being: satisfaction with life, positive mood, social support, stress, depression, negative mood, and loneliness. And we surveyed the same people every month so that we could understand how well-being changed month to month and how that related to how they were using Facebook. So first, we looked at what happens when you scroll a lot. When you passively consume a lot of content, particularly from acquaintances. We found that in general, well-being didn't change much. So here's what you're looking at. The gray boxes mean that that aspect of well-being didn't change in a statistically significant way month to month. So most things, like satisfaction with life or positive mood, really didn't change much. However, negative mood did go up, when people were scrolling through a lot of extra content, particularly when it came from acquaintances. Now let's talk about what happened when people weren't just passively consuming, but instead were interacting with those acquaintances. So this is the effect of receiving extra comments, of talking to your acquaintances. We found that social support increased and loneliness decreased the more comments people received from their acquaintances. And they no longer have that elevated negative mood, now that they're actually talking with their friends, not just reading about them. But we've been talking about acquaintances. Let me show you what happens when people talk with close friends. This time, when those comments come from close friends, we see several of the well-being indicators improve. Satisfaction with life, positive mood, and social support all increase, and loneliness decreased the more that people were interacting with their close friends. We use studies like this to inform best practices, particularly encouraging one-on-one interactions between close friends. Now let me show you some changes we've made to Facebook as a result of this research. We now rank newsfeed to encourage meaningful interactions, rather than to optimize for things like time spent or content consumption. Instead, we rank for more conversations and interactions with the people that you care about. To do this, we predict which posts you might want to interact with your friends about, and we show those posts higher in feed. Posts where friends are asking for advice, or where a friend posts a video that's sparking a lot of discussion. We also prioritize posts from close friends. That way, you're more likely to have those kinds of interactions that are so good for well-being. And we provide people with tools to manage their time on Facebook, to see how much time they've spent on the app in the last week, to edit their newsfeed preferences to ensure that they're seeing the content from the people they care most about, to set daily reminders when they reach time limits that they've set for themselves, and to manage notifications. This helps people to ensure that they have control over the time they spend on Facebook and that they're interacting with the people they care the most about. So to reiterate the things that we've learned, to support well-being, look for opportunities for one-on-one interactions rather than consumption or time spent. And effortful interactions matter more. They signal that because you took the effort, the relationship is worth that effort. And look for ways for people to bring close friends with them to their experiences online. It's these interactions with close friends that the data show are best for well-being. Thank you, and I hope you'll be able to apply some of these best practices to your own work. Thanks.